Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready for countdown number 62. That's right, fans. We have 14 books all together this week. We had 13 physical copies, one digital book. But before we get started with this week's countdown, there's a new little feature that I will be doing starting with this countdown, is where each and every week I would like you guys to recommend a picture that I can put for a particular week's episode. And I mentioned this in my comic book haul video. So for episode 62, thanks for Jay, Philly Superman. He recommended Medusa being this week's picture of the week for the countdown. And so as you can see when you click on this video, Medusa is on this video. So with that being forward, next week is a male. Every other week is a female and a male. So next week will be a male character. You can pick villain, you can pick hero, you can pick people from any types of comics. And if I like the suggestion, I'll go ahead and put your picture on the countdown and give you guys a shout out as well. So, with that being said, let's get started with this week's countdown. And we start off with the dreaded old worst pick of the week, and that was number 14. And number 14 was this Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 15. Now, the story was okay. The art was okay too. In most cases, would this have gotten worst pick of the week? Probably not. But what they advertise on here is why, for me, it gets worst pick of the week. You show Captain Marvel on the Guardians of the Galaxy cover. Okay, now we've had misleading covers before where you see certain things happen and it doesn't happen and things like that. But in this particular issue, it physically shows Captain Marvel here, and it says, and now Captain Marvel. She is not even shown in this book. She is not even mentioned in this book. And I'm sorry, if you're a Captain Marvel fan, you're going to be disappointed here because some people may just buy this particular issue for Captain Marvel. And when they read it, they're going to be disappointed. And this was $3.99, folks, and there wasn't even a mention of her in here. Basically, what this issue was about was the continuation of all our Guardians of the Galaxy team members being captured, and their story continues of what is happening to them at the present. You get to see what happens to Rocket Raccoon. You get to see what happens to Gamora. Now, the artwork is pretty good, and I've said this before. I think it could be better. It's no Sarah Pichelli's artwork, but it's okay. Again, this artwork distinctively, I remember it in Wolverine and the X-Men in the Volume 1 series. I find the people look like they seem like they're drawn tiny, a little squishy, but it's not bad. Again, you get to see what happens in Drax here, and you get to see Peter surrender himself. You get to see Venom being persuaded by a bunch of Skrulls in the particular issue as well. So the issue had its moments, and the story was decent. However, it's just a complete and utter misleading book to get you to think that Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, is in this issue, and she clearly is not. So this, for this reason, is why this gets worst pick of the week for me. So again, guys, this is number 14, and it gets a 2 out of 5. All right, so going on, we're going to go move on to number 13. And number 13 was Dawn of the Autobots, Transformers, Robots in Disguise. Now, I'm not going to be buying, unfortunately, Transformers in physical copies anymore. I feel it's not worth the money for me. I'm going to be reading it digitally. I do get a lot of these independents, fortunately, for no cost to me, and being a reviewer. And if I really like a book, I obviously collect the physical copies. And even though this book is really a pretty book and it really shows, your Decepticons, and it really shows great detail, and your Transformers really remind you of what the cartoon was back in the day. However, I find that Transformers is a very confusing title to read. If you have not read past issues, you're going to be lost. Now, the series does try to get you back in the game, but there's so much that's gone on. I don't feel you can really catch up unless you read some trades. This one really focused heavily on the Constructicons. I guess they're obviously good now and working with the Autobots. You have Prowl, who is unsure or not happy with the whole situation with Megatron being an Autobot now, even though he's staying with trial. And he has he has problems dealing with situations. But at the end of this issue, what I found, which was crazy, is that Prowl looks like he forms together with Devastator, because that's Prowl up there. And I was like, what the heck is all that? So I'm like, I totally missed something. It's an interesting issue. It's good stuff if you're a Transformers fan, but so much has changed in the universe that, at least in the comic history part of it, I just feel like I can't get connected with it the way I was when I watched the cartoons. It's probably a great read for a lot of people, but for me, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. Just average with great artwork. All right, so going on. We're going to go on to number 12. And number 12 was Superman, issue number 31. This continues the Doomsday, or Doomed chapter, and this is chapter 4, otherwise known as Lockdown. And I guess I missed chapter 3, and that was in Batman Superman. So I might have to pick that up to backtrack on that particular issue. But I felt with this issue, I felt like I really didn't miss anything. Superman was captive. I know Steel had to go and capture him and put him in this facility. And they basically have Superman captive here. Now, the thing that struggles with this book is the artwork. The artwork is done pretty good, I think, by Ed Benz, and then it's done by Jack Herbert. And there are certain, artwork elements here that really make this book look pretty, I think, in my opinion. The way Superman is drawn reminds me a little bit of Tony S. Daniels' artwork. It's got some sketchiness in there, but overall the artwork is solid. And then at certain points you see Superman drawn completely different in here, in this particular part here. I mean, this does not look like Clark Kent, Superman, Doomsday. Like, look at him. He looks like he's skinny. Like, he doesn't have any muscle tone to him whatsoever. But you get to see Superman kind of do like this psychic battle type of thing with Lois, because she's a Brainiac, and Superman winds up escaping out of this prison that he's being held at or whatnot. And Lex Luthor made this prison and supposedly is impenetrable, and he just breaks free. And he feels like he has to save the Teen Titans in here. And basically, he kind of does. He saves the Teen Titans, and then the Teen Titans are like, what's wrong with Superman? That's kind of how the issue ends. Like, it didn't really progress anything in the story for Superman's health or status or his involvement with Doomsday. All there was ever mentioned was he can't have another Doomsday flare. It could affect all of us, and it could kill Lois. But nothing really progressed the series or this storyline at all when it happens to do with Doomed. I think the first, the Doomed issue, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 were really great. I still have to read 3 to see how he was held captive. But this one really felt like a filler issue for me. So I'm going to give this book probably a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, so going on, we're going to go on to number 10. And number 10 is, and it's not showing up on my phone. I thought it would. I'll try it one more time. But number 10 was a new book written by Warren Ellis, and it is otherwise known as Trees, issue number 1. Now, this book was really kind of weird because not much happened in it. So the Earth is being invaded by these trees. They just basically implant themselves into the Earth, and they don't do shit. And they're being ignored. It looks like maybe they had some stuff coming out of them or whatever it is. But society has learned to deal with them, and they don't do anything, these trees. And they're just implanted all over the place. And in the issue, you get to see introduction of so many characters. You get to see this one little boy who goes into this town, into this city, leaving his small village. You get to see a mayor. You get to see a scientist that studies in Alaska, and they all have their different involvements in the particular series. We really don't know too much about it yet, but the series has me intrigued, so I'm looking forward to see what this entails. So I will be reading it, and I will keep you guys updated, and hopefully on issue 2 I can show you some artwork on here. But it was very, it's like suspense type of thing, even though there's nothing happening. I want to know what's going on with these trees. How is it going to affect the entire Earth? And 10 years has been already since they've set foot on the Earth. So weird invasion there. All right, so with that being said, we're going to move on to number 9. And number 9 was Future's End, issue number 4. Trees, by the way, gets 3.5 out of 5 stars. Future's End, issue number 4. Again, doesn't have much progression in this particular story. However, it shows why Frankenstein is in the story now, at least. And, you see that he was a part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent of Shade. And he goes back to his roots, 5 years, obviously 5 years from now. And he's like, why do you guys attack me? I'm in my home and blah, blah, blah. And he comes across Amethyst, and he comes across, what's his name? Future Father Time. And Father Time is in this little girl. And basically they got to recruit Frankenstein to find out what happened to the carrier from Storewatch, because it got destroyed. We don't know who yet, but if you've read Future's End issue number 0 or 1, you might think that it's Brother's Eye that destroyed it or whatnot. So they basically convince Frankenstein to go and work for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again and find out what happened to the carrier and what happened to the heroes. So you get a lot of story there. However, I felt that Frankenstein was really easily convinced to go out on this mission, because once you find out that his ex-lover or his lover or whatever was killed, it's like right away he's like, I'm on board, So that was kind of cheesy. But as the issue progresses, you get to see a little bit more with Red Robin in here, talking, I guess, with his girlfriend Madison, and you can see that he has knee problems because obviously he got shot in the knee or something happened to him in the knee. And then you see Lois like snooping around, finding out, and she's like, I need to find out who you are, and I need to talk to you next, Red Robin. So she's lurking about. And then you find out about this other villain that was locked up that got released from parole, and he has to infiltrate Terrific or do something with that, and supposedly it's the Mother Lode. And then you get another scene in here where it comes with Grifter, and it's this dude here. I guess that was maybe in the when he was in the investigation room or whatever it was. I'm not sure, but it's this guy who winds up paralyzing Grifter, and that's kind of how this issue ends. So yeah, a lot more. No more with Firestorm this time around. No more other heroes. Now you get to see why Frankenstein is in space. You get to see what happened with Grifter. Again, though, not much progression. And so far, I've been really right about this series. it's going to be a slow burn. I mean, you can see that nothing has really happened in the last 2 issues. You get a little bit more of character development, but not too much more. You just get like 4 characters get their own little character development, being Frankenstein being the most focused one on this one. So this issue is almost like a carbon copy of the last issue, and I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so going forward, we go on to number 8, and number 8 this week is Red Lanterns issue number 31. The battle continues between Atrocitus, Supergirl, and the rest of the Red Lanterns are getting this particular Red Lantern on their particular side. Artwork on the cover is phenomenal. I love the artwork here. And Red Lanterns is a very entertaining book for me. I think Charles Soule knows how to write this series. When it was written before he took over, I just didn't think it was a solid series at all. But here, the artwork works, the coloring works, and I feel that the stories work at times too. And it has a nice type of sick humor in it as well when it's needed, and they don't overdo it. So again, this story continues with the battle between the judge and Atrocitus, and you get to see Dexter trying to go after this particular judge, and Supergirl's in pursuit for the blood that kind of calms the Red Lanterns down. So she succeeds in that and tries to hurry up, and she winds up like busting the whole thing open, which was hysterical. And she acts without even thinking. And what happens? It really kind of powers up Atrocitus, and he kind of is in control of his blood because he's the one that created it. And then, so what happens in the issue? This whole planet's wound up being destroyed, and all thanks to our wonderful Supergirl here. And we can see that the Red Lanterns aren't happy about it. But in the end, they wind up controlling the blood. They save the town or the city or the planet. And the judge winds up coming to her senses due to the blood. And in the end, though, she's got to make a decision on what happens on her own terms. She wants to hear the side of the Red Lanterns, and she wants to hear the side of Atrocitus before she makes a decision on what side to take. And, you know, this was kind of a weak ending because she never really chooses a side, and I was really hoping to find out you know, which side she goes on, because it can make a pivotal role in a team for the Red Lanterns. But the Red Lanterns decide that, and of course there's this whole thing going on with Atrocitus and Guy Gardner with Rancor being held. So yeah, there's going to be this rescue for Rancor, which continues in the next story. Guy Gardner's beard continues to grow. He's becoming like Duck Dynasty. First it was the porn star mustache. Now it became a goatee, and now it's just becoming full-on Duck Dynasty. So you can see that he doesn't care about his appearance anymore this way. I would have loved to see an outcome to this issue. This kind of just concluded the story arc where it left you still hanging on what's going to happen with this particular Red Lantern. However, it was a solid read, and I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars as well. Alright, so going forward, we're going to go on to, I think we're on number 7 now. Let me just double check. Oh no, I miscounted again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm on 8. So wherever we're at, we're on 8 right now. So I'm sorry for the miscount. Probably the digital comic. But number 8 was Flash issue number 31. You know what? I like the art in the Flash. I think, I always talk about artwork first thing in a lot of books because artwork is very important in comic books. It attracts me. It tells a good story when the art is good. And I think Brett Booth does a nice job on here. My only issue with Brett Booth's art is at times, and I think I said this last time, his people tend to be so lengthy in legs. Like, especially when they're small. Like, look how long their legs go. They go on forever, man. But great artwork here. I love the way Mirror Master is drawn in the issue. I like the details and the character expressions and facial expressions in the issue as well. Paneling is well done. So Brett Booth has taken over and done a nice job with this series so far. In this issue, we get to see a return of a particular bad guy, and his name is, I'm trying to see who it was again because I totally forgot off the top of my head. Black Mold was his name, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with Black Mold. But after some investigation, Barry Allen finds out that it's not him. After prison got destroyed, a whole bunch of supervillains got released or whatever. They got handle on a particular weapons, a whole bunch of them. So we're not sure who actually did this crime. And there's a side story that goes on in this issue where it comes to Iris, and she basically wants Barry to watch her nephew, which is Wally. And let's just say in this series already, since Robert Venditti has taken over, that the relationship between Iris and Barry seemed to be a little closer. She really wants him to watch Wally. They hug and they meet, and you can see a little jealousy there with Patty, and I find it quite interesting. I think I'm going to find these guys getting back together in this particular issue. But we see Future Flash come in here. That happens like, 20 years or 16 years from now. And he's trying to undo everything that has happened negatively or bad in the past. And you get to see him confront Mirror Master in here. And again, with this side story with Wally West, we see that Barry tries to help Iris, and Wally has nothing to do with it because Barry's the one that put him in jail to begin with. Yeah, solid story overall. I like the ending. It was cool how all the mirrors come crashing down on Mirror Master, and I can't wait to see what happens in the next issue. I don't think there was a lot of progression in the overall story. I just think you get this particular mystery guy, and he steals these weapons, and they're got to find out who he is, but you don't get much of the main story of Future Flash in this issue. But nevertheless, it was still a solid read. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so number 7. This time we're on number 7. We go into Batman Zero Year. I like this issue. This issue really stood out for me this time around. One of the best issues of Zero Year. And I'll tell you why. I like this one because of the suspense that it brought. The whole thing of this issue was to get Riddler off his game. And that's what I loved about it. And Batman had to keep Riddler on hold for 20 minutes on his little intercom or on his little screen that's in Gotham or whatnot. And so Lucius can sit there and get a tap on him, a trace on him to find out where he actually is. This is a huge plan that everyone, Commissioner Gordon, came up with and everything else. And I loved seeing it develop as the issue went along. And you see Riddler come on. He starts doing the riddle, and he's like, oh, is anybody going to challenge me? And here comes Batman. Batman comes out of nowhere, and he's like, oh, I'll challenge you. And it's great because not only does, Riddler start talking and be overconfident and start saying, oh, is it going to be about bats and whatnot? Batman throws him for a loop. And it becomes this big whole action sequence, and he tries to dispose of him. And Riddler's getting a kick at trying to dispose of Batman and show all the Gotham Knights what's happening. But let's just say that Batman was able to, withhold the Riddler for 20 minutes, and they got the tap on him, which I thought was really good. And then by the time you got to the end of the issue, we get to see something that happened with Bruce and his professor in the past about this particular riddle that happened, which was neat. I thought this issue was really good. This was a standout issue for me. I love the suspense in this issue. Greg Capullo's artwork, of course, is always solid. You can't say anything bad about it. And so, moving forward, I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this one this week, and this was number 7 on the list. And we're at the end of this, guys. We got 2 more issues left, and we're going to move on to a new Batman story. All right, so going forward, we are at number 6, and number 6 was Wonderland issue number 23. This is by Zenescope Entertainment. This book is written by Eric M. Esquivel, if I said that right. This issue was pretty interesting because you have Callie, who is the warrior in Wonderland, and you have Hazel, which was a warrior to set out to defeat Callie, which is this. So this is Hazel, and this is Callie, and you got this guy. He's named the Void, and he feeds off of all of this stuff, off of all of this negative energy, and it's said in this particular issue that he looks like James Franco, so which is fun, but he gets his jollies and his joys and his power from all the negativity that happens in the Wonderland realm. So as the issue continues in here, we find out that Callie and Hazel wind up trying to work together here. They wind up working their differences off. They wind up sending the Void away, and they have to work with the Queen of Clubs in order to stop the Void. And then what happens also in the issue is that you see Callie meet up with her daughter Violet, who is stuck in this realm as well, which is interesting because that's why Callie was in this realm to begin with, to rescue her daughter, and they get reunited by the time you get to the end of the issue. And you have some good character moments here between mother and daughter, which is nice. And this whole Wonderland thing has been going on for generations. It's gone for the daughter, from the mother, and even for the grandmother as well. So by the time you get to the end of the issue, you have to see that mother and daughter actually have to go against the Void. So really solid issue. Really enjoyed it. This kind of ties in a little bit with a book that I'll be talking about, which is called The Clash of the Queens. Reference back to certain things. But this is good. If you guys are looking for something different and just a mini-series, I suggest this because this is a solid read. Oh, this is not a mini-series. This is an ongoing. I'm sorry. This is issue 23. I got the other one confused. This is This is an ongoing. This is one of the few ongoings that they have right now, but it's based off of the mini-series from Wonderland. So, yeah, give this one a try, guys, if you're looking for something different. This is Wonderland issue number 23, and I'm giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. All right, so going forward, we're going on to Top 5, and number 5 is Batman Eternal issue number 8, written by Scott Snyder. This book is back on track, guys. This was a good issue. I had a viewer tell me a few weeks back, I think back on issue 4 or 5, telling me what issues were going to suck. And then he goes, back on issue 8 is where the story gets back on track. And he was 100% right. And this book got back to where it needed to get to. And every issue would be like this. Batman Eternal would be phenomenal. It all starts off with, what happened in the last issue with Penguin's Ice Casino getting destroyed. And we see divers going after it, trying to find money. And then Batman gets involved in it. He gets in, like, Bat Aqua submarine or whatever it is. And he's trying to take out all Falcone's men. But the men can never get arrested because anything that has to do with Batman arresting people, the new commissioner, Forbes, wants nothing to do with it. The artwork is back on track as well in this issue. Makes Batman look really dark and can be at time almost look very angry. And I really enjoyed the artwork here in this book. And so again, as the issue continues, you get to see Jason Bard make first meetings with Vicky Vale, which the character interactions were really good there, and it ties into what happened with Stephanie Brown, how she was on her phone talking to her mother and trying to get her mom to come pick her up. And while we had the Clue Masters people try to shoot up that phone booth because they knew that Stephanie Brown was in there. So it's funny how this all ties together because they're investigating this scene that has to do with Stephanie Brown, who could have gotten killed but moved out of the way just in time. So we had a little interaction there. And then by the time you get to the end of the book, we get to see Batman being called by the bat signal and just basically, Forbes giving him a warning going, we want nothing to do with you. And kind of all hell breaks loose. The bat signal is destroyed and Batman takes off to Hong Kong, and guess who's there? So I don't know about next issue already, feeling that has to do with Hong Kong, but this issue was really, really good. I really enjoyed this particular issue. It was almost #1 pick for a while, and then there's other issues that came along that dethroned it, that drove it to that #5 spot. But this was a good issue, and this is what I like about Batman Eternal. Focused more on the main plot, and I wish it did that more than all these subplots. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5. Okay, going forward now, we are on #4. And #4 was Inhuman issue #2. Plagued by delays and delays. I loved issue #1. Okay, Ford's artwork alone made me want to buy the book forever. And this issue was no exception. I love the artwork in this book. The cover is awesome. You just got this dude that's on fire, and he's just lit up, and it's got Inhuman on the top of it. Charles Soule is the writer of this book. You can obviously see, I think, that I've read a lot of Charles Soule books this year, and I want to give the man a lot of credit. The man has written very solid stories this year, and he's part of my personal nomination for Writer of the Year because he has just done so much, and I feel that his writing has been pretty solid for the most part. So it opens up to the what is it? Oh my God, what's his name? Is it Dante? Dante, who is the new Inhuman, and his sister. They were captive. They were held captive by Medusa, but she's really in their safeguard. And what happens is she wants to train them or wants to train him to be the Inhuman that he is. This weird scientist, he wants to do this study on his mother and dissect his mom. But, Medusa sits there and says, I want nothing. Don't do that. We're going to have proper burial. What I like about Medusa in Inhuman series is that she is a strong-willed character. And it definitely portrays that because she's a queen. And you have to be strong. And she doesn't take shit from nobody. Doesn't matter who it is. Her own people, Captain America, doesn't matter who it is. So you get to meet, Dante gets to meet her trainer, the trainer of all the Inhumans, and Gorgon is his name. And he's trying to help him use his powers that he got because he kind of can't control him. He doesn't know what it's about. You get to see great interactions between his sister and Gorgon on how if they should stay or shouldn't stay because Queen Medusa basically gives him the option that you can leave at any time. But the sister says, okay, until he can control his power, then we'll go. So then there's training that begins. So now on the other flip side of this story, we get to see Captain America. And Captain America wants to sit here and talk business with Medusa in the issue, and it needs her immediate attention. So there's pieces of her facility all over the place, and she has lack of people. The Tarragon mist is going around and it's transforming people, but obviously it's not it's not fast enough. So after Captain America and Medusa get out their differences, they go out in battle and they have to recover these particular pieces. Again, she is drawn beautifully. The overextension on her hair, the way they make it look alive, it's just absolutely beautiful the way she is drawn. And I'm truly find myself integrated in this comic. Like I am engaged all the way because of this artwork. But by the time you get to the end of it and you see these great action scenes in here, they recover this particular piece that's needed for their facility to put back together. And at the end, you get to meet this particular character right here, new villain or bad guy or whatever it is. But he particularly knows everything. Yeah, fun issue. Really enjoyed it. I wish I could give a little bit more detail about it. I read it last week, one of the first issues I read, but I really enjoyed it again for that artwork alone. It was a fun read, solid read. My only issue with this is that the delays, and the delays are going to make the reader forget what this is about and how good of a comic that this really can be. So as long as the delays are not there, this can be a very good series. So in the end, I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5. All right, so going on, we're going to go on to number 3. And number three, top 3 was Miss Marvel, issue number 4. Miss Marvel is really good issue. And the series is really good because it's taking you a true journey of an origin tale of a particular character. Not just, hey, I got bit by a radioactive spider and all of a sudden I got these powers. But it's like almost like watching a movie here, seeing her first, her origin tale, how she got her powers, how she put on the costume, how she, fought her first mission, and how she's dealing with the people around her and handling her peers. And that's what's so great about Miss Marvel. The artwork is different. It's a different spin on things. It's fresh. It's still not my favorite artwork. However, it's tolerable now that I'm 4 issues into it. But this book is really great because in the last issue you got left off with Captain Marvel, or Miss Marvel, I'm sorry, gets shot. And you're like, oh man, how's she going to get out of this? And this was some fake holdup that she got involved with. And she actually got shot. But when she morphs back, you wind up that she actually heals herself when she's human. So get this, now you know another power from her. First, you know she can make a big hand or stretch out or grow big, but now she has a healing factor. She can also morph into anything that she wants, and then when she heals back to her human form, she automatically starts to heal. So you get to know more about her powers in here. You get to know that she doesn't want to be about Captain Marvel anymore. She wants to be her own hero, and she wants to be called Miss Marvel. So after handling certain things that go on at the local convenience store and dealing with the police in the issue, she finds out that she's going to sew herself an outfit. She starts putting together an outfit. She wants to sneak out and, you know, go do this particular, I guess you want to say her first mission, because her friend, I guess, is, being captive by these guys or this bad guy or whatever it is. And her mom is warning her, you better not be out past 1 because you're going to have to deal with your father or whatever it is. And so she goes out on this particular mission late at night. And it's funny because it's just like a bunch of kids. And she finds herself in her new outfit here, ready to go with a gigantic fist. And she's going to go against this particular guy by the name of the Inventor, and he's created these crazy like machines, and she destroys them. And I guess she's going to try to go after her friend, but she's got to go through this guy first. So when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's this teenager going after another teenager. But when you're a superhero, it's your first mission, so it's a big deal for her. And I like that. I like that she's a kid exploring these powers, doing these basic things. And she's not going straight off into space, destroying freaking Thanos or Galactus or anything. It's pretty neat to see that. And so, for that reason, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. This was a fun read, too. All right, so going on to number 2. And number 2 was, and this was number 2 into this very last comic that I read, but number 2 was Wonderland Clash of the Queens, done by Zenescope Entertainment. Last time I did a countdown and this series was released, issue number 3, it was number 2 on the countdown here. And I thought for sure this time was going to get number 1. But this book was written by Troy Brownfield, and the art here is Manuel Pertino. Artwork is solid here. Here it's all about our 4 queens. It's about the Queen of Hearts, the Queen of Spades, the Queen of Clubs, the Queen of Diamonds. And they're all being manipulated by this female, let's see, where is she? Right here, the trickster. And this whole time, you know, they're all ruled, Wonderland is all ruled by these queens. And they're after this ebony blade. And if you have possession of this ebony blade, you can be the ruler of you know, Wonderland. But what happens is that the trickster's been persuading all these queens to plot against each other. And recently, the Queen of Spades, who's the evil one, winds up releasing a power over the Queen of Hearts, I think it was, and wind up going against all the other knights and people of all of the suits and armies, and wind up destroying them so she could get this ebony blade. And the trickster says that she's real loyal to the Queen of Hearts, and she's like has her word. But as the issue goes along, I mean, this is ultimate in betrayal and revenge and backstabbing. This book, this is like basically you get a bunch of females together and they backstab you. You know, that's what this book is. It's typical, you know, typical thing like where you see all kinds of competitiveness. This is what it is. It's crazy. But the trickster winds up talking to each and every queen again and saying that the Queen of Hearts did this, the Queen of Hearts did this, and putting all these things in their ear. And she winds up getting the Queen of Diamonds and the Queen of Clubs back into a relationship that they had once before, because she, the Queen of Diamonds, basically erased all these memories from her and basically just wanted, you know, nothing but pure, straightforward rule, and she wanted no emotional attachment to anything. But the trickster wound up putting this spell on her, so she falls in love with the Queen of Clubs again. And now they're going to be going after the Queen of Clubs, or Queen of Hearts, after this ebony blade. And you can see that they go after her castle, and all of a sudden the ebony blade is loose. And just as you see, I think the trickster has possession of the ebony blade, and this is what she wanted the whole time, a huge distraction so she can get it. So really cool issue, really enjoyed it. This has been that different series for me. I didn't expect it to be so good. I love the backstabbing aspect of it, this person harping in your ear and trying to say things about another person to go against each other. I love that. That's why it's awesome. So with that being said, though, I'm giving this issue a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this issue, guys. All right. Next, the number 1 book of the week goes to, and I never actually thought this would happen this week, the extra-sized Fantastic Four, issue number 5. Now, I thought 5 issues in, and we're already going extra-sized, and, you know, it's $4.99. I'm sitting here going, okay, here we go. $5 already. They're saying it's extra-sized. Is it going to suck? And I thought this was going to suck, and boy, was I wrong. This was a great issue. Basically, there's, you know, this is the fall of the Fantastic Four, Part 5. You actually see the Fantastic Four, how they fall apart in this, basically in this issue here. There's a class action lawsuit going against the Fantastic Four about everything that they have done in the past and current, on villains they fought, you know, things that they did that they didn't expect. Like, for instance, yes, they battled Galactus, but they were held responsible for this and that, like for damages in the city or whatever it is. Or Ben Grimm gets angry because people are yelling and screaming at him, and so he picks up a car and throws it, and destroys his father's work life, and he can't work anymore, like this particular character's work life. And so it was all described here. And one of the things in this particular issue that I love, that I've always been wondering, is that in superhero movies and in superhero comics, you always see this mass destruction, all this chaos that happens, people that get infected that are not even part of the superhero community. You never see the consequences to that. You never see what happens to the small people and what the public thinks of the superheroes on what they do to their city. This issue, it shows it, and that's what I liked about this. You see the consequences of that. Now, they kind of, go to the extreme, of course, because they make the Fantastic Four look like a bunch of idiots. But when the Fantastic Four even think about it, when the lawyer's attacking them, they're like, oh my God, we should have done this and we should have done that. So that's what this issue is about. It really is about what happens to the community when the superheroes are battling the bad guys and the community's destroyed. And I've always wondered what happens and who cleans it up. And this issue does that. And I love that so much. I love that element. But what's really good about this issue, too, is that Jennifer Walters is in here representing the Fantastic Four as a lawyer. I would have loved to see Jennifer Walters do like a crossover in her book defending it and seeing how she's handling the case. I would have loved to see the crossover there. But this issue does a great job of describing certain things that happened in the Fantastic Four's past. I thought that was really nice. You get to see all the relationships that happened. So you see all kinds of different artists in this particular issue too. Again, Galactus, Galactus, Firestorm, Johnny Storm, I'm sorry. And you get to see Annihilus in here. So you get to see everything that's happened in their past. And you get to see different art styles. And it really went well together. And the lawyer here was such a badass lawyer. And how he won the case was awesome. And the touching moment here is when Jennifer Walters is talking to a reporter, and she describes what it was like when Invisible Girl saw, what happened when she walked out of the case, out of the trial, out of the courtroom, and she saw that DCF came to remove her kids, and she went to go attack the woman, and she was just heartbroken. And that's a very touching moment for if you're a parent or for any person out there, because you know that the Fantastic Four are really out for good, and it just didn't fall in their favor, and they couldn't control certain things or didn't think of certain things. You get to see brief moments of Dr. Doom and Valeria in this issue, and then what happens to the kids at the end of the issue too, because they can't be watched by their parents anymore. This will be really interesting to see where this series goes now, with Reed, Invisible Girl, The Thing, and Johnny Storm, and how they're just torn apart, and how they're devastated, and how if they can ever regroup from this. This was a fantastic issue. It really answered a lot of questions. It really put forth a reality that can happen in a superhero world when your community gets destroyed. And again, that's why I loved so much about it. So after reading that, guys, I gave that issue a 5 out of 5 this week. And guys, as always, thank you for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0. You've seen the worst, you've seen the best. Now leave your comments below and tell me what your favorite comic of the week was, what your worst comic book of the week is. And guys, I'll see you on the next comic book review. Take care, guys. See you soon. Bye.